August 14, 1986, Jeremy Bright, a 14-year-old boy from Myrtle Point, Oregon, vanished during a week that should have been filled with fun and celebration. The Coos County Fair was in full swing, and Jeremy, who had come to town to visit his family for the event, spent most of his days with friends enjoying the rides and attractions. But one fateful afternoon, Jeremy disappeared, and the mystery surrounding his vanishing still lingers. Jeremy was last seen at the fairgrounds in Coquille, Oregon. Earlier in the day, he had called his mother from a payphone to arrange a ride home for later that evening. Everything seemed normal, and his mother, Diane, expected him to return soon. But Jeremy never came home. When his mother realized he was missing, she immediately knew something was wrong. Jeremy wasn't the kind of kid to just wander off without telling anyone. He had left his wallet, watch, and all his belongings behind, and no one had seen or heard from him. Diane reported her son missing, and a frantic search began. Friends, family, and local authorities combed through the area, but there were no solid clues as to what happened to him. Rumors swirled about the possibilities of what might have befallen Jeremy. Some said he had been involved in an accident or that he had gotten caught up in foul play. There were even reports that Jeremy had been seen at a party with older teenagers, where things may have gone terribly wrong. But none of these stories could be confirmed. As the investigation continued, some chilling pieces of information surfaced. One witness claimed to have seen Jeremy being forcibly given drugs by older boys, leading to speculation that he may have overdosed and that his body had been hidden. Another theory suggested that Jeremy had been shot accidentally during a game of target practice, but again, no hard evidence supported these claims. Over the years, countless searches and tips have led investigators down many dead ends, but Jeremy Bright's whereabouts remain a complete mystery. His case is still classified as a missing person, and his family continues to hold out hope that one day, the truth about what happened to him will come to light. Jeremy Bright's disappearance, now over 3 decades old, is one of Oregon's most baffling, unsolved cases. A haunting reminder of a boy who vanished without a trace on a summer day in 1986. Tiffany Sessions was a bright 20-year-old student at the University of Florida, full of energy and plans for the future. On February 9, 1989, her life took a mysterious turn, and the events of that day remain a haunting mystery. It was a typical Thursday afternoon in Gainesville, Florida. Tiffany, a junior majoring in business, had just finished studying and, feeling restless, decided to go for a jog to clear her mind. She told her roommate that she was heading out for a run, something she often did along the same route, down a well-known path near the apartment complex where she lived. She left at around 6 p.m., dressed in a white sweatshirt, red running shorts, and wearing her Sony Walkman. She wasn't carrying her ID or any money, just her house key tucked into her shorts. It was still light outside, and she was only planning to be gone for 30 minutes. However, as the sun set and hours passed, Tiffany never returned. Concerned, her roommate contacted Tiffany's father, Patricia Sessions, who immediately sensed something was wrong. By midnight, the police were called, and an all-out search began. Within hours, volunteers, law enforcement officers, helicopters, and tracking dogs were combing the area in hopes of finding any sign of the missing college student. Days turned into weeks, but no trace of Tiffany was ever found. Her family was devastated, and her father, a successful businessman, took charge of the search, spending his own resources and becoming a tireless advocate for finding his daughter. Posters with Tiffany's smiling face were plastered across the country, bringing national attention to the case. Despite the massive effort, there was no breakthrough in the case. Rumors and possible leads flooded in. Several potential suspects were questioned, but none led to any solid answers. Over the years, a few promising leads surfaced. In 2014, investigators named a convicted serial killer named Paul Rolls as the likely suspect in Tiffany's disappearance. Rolls, who had been living in the Gainesville area at the time and had a violent history, had kept a diary with disturbing notes that hinted at his involvement. However, Rolls had died in prison in 2013, taking any secrets about Tiffany's fate to the grave. Despite this development, Tiffany Sessions has never been found. Her family continues to hold out hope that one day they will learn what happened to their daughter on that warm February evening. The mystery of her disappearance still looms large over Gainesville, serving as a reminder of the dangers that can exist in even the most familiar places. Her case remains unsolved, and though decades have passed, Tiffany Sessions' disappearance continues to baffle investigators and haunt the community, leaving her loved ones with the agonizing question, what really happened to Tiffany on that fateful jog? Kristen Modafferi was a bright 18-year-old college student from North Carolina, who seemed to have everything going for her. In the summer of 1997, she moved to San Francisco to attend a photography course at the University of California, Berkeley. She rented a room in a house in Oakland and got a part-time job at a coffee shop to support herself during her stay. But just a few short weeks after arriving in the Bay Area, Kristen vanished without a trace, leaving behind a mystery that has haunted investigators for over 2 decades. On June 23, 1997, Kristen worked her shift at the Spinelli's coffee shop in the Crocker Galleria in downtown San Francisco. She clocked out at 3 p.m. and was last seen leaving the mall. Kristen had mentioned wanting to visit Baker Beach that day, a popular spot near the Golden Gate Bridge. She asked a coworker for directions, but never explicitly stated her plans. That was the last time anyone saw or heard from her. When Kristen didn't return home, her housemates didn't initially suspect anything was wrong. But after a few days passed, concern grew, and they contacted her family. Kristen's parents, devastated by the news, flew to San Francisco to help search for their daughter. Police launched an investigation, but they faced frustratingly few leads. Kristen's bank account, cell phone, and personal items were all untouched, and there was no sign of foul play. Surveillance footage from the Galleria showed Kristen leaving her workplace that afternoon, but the trail went cold after that. No witnesses reported seeing her at Baker Beach, and despite extensive searches of the area, there was no sign of her. A few people claimed to have seen Kristen in the days following her disappearance, but these sightings were never confirmed. One puzzling lead came when police discovered that an anonymous classified ad had been placed in a local newspaper, offering a room for rent. Authorities never identified the person who placed the ad, and it remains unclear if this was connected to her disappearance. On July 10, 1997, John Onuma falsely implicated 2 women in the murder of Kristen Modafferi, claiming her body was under a bridge. He later admitted to fabricating the story due to a personal vendetta. Police searched Onuma's apartment and found a significant amount of blood, but DNA tests revealed it was cat blood. Public suspicion grew, leading to Onuma moving to Hawaii shortly after. Years passed, and Kristen's case grew colder. Despite media attention and the efforts of her family, Kristen's fate remains unknown. The case remains open, and investigators continue to hope for new leads. But the mystery of what happened to Kristen that summer day in San Francisco has never been solved. It remains one of the most baffling missing person cases in modern history. On the night of April 20th, 1989, Patricia Meehan, a 37-year-old woman from Bozeman, Montana, disappeared under bizarre circumstances, leaving behind a mystery that still haunts those who knew her. Patricia had been going through a difficult period in her life, showing signs of emotional distress and struggling with personal issues. She had recently quit her job as a ranch hand, moved into a small rental property, and even spoken to a therapist about feeling disconnected from herself. Despite these signs, no one could have predicted the strange chain of events that would unfold. That fateful night, Patricia was driving along Highway 200 near Circle, Montana, when she was involved in a minor head-on collision with another vehicle. The crash wasn't serious, and the other driver, a woman named Carol Heights, immediately got out of her car to check on Patricia. What happened next was both surreal and unsettling. Patricia didn't seem injured, but she behaved strangely. Instead of talking to Heights, she climbed out of her car, walked across the road, and stood in a field, staring silently at the scene of the accident. She seemed completely detached, as if she was watching the entire event unfold from a distance. According to witnesses, Patricia stood there for several minutes, observing the aftermath of the crash, but making no effort to interact with anyone. Then, without warning, she turned and walked away into the darkness of the Montana plains, never to be seen again. In the days that followed, an extensive search was launched to find Patricia. Law enforcement officers, volunteers, and even helicopters combed the vast open land, but there was no trace of her. Her car was left behind with personal belongings, including her purse and identification, but Patricia had seemingly vanished without a trace. Her family was devastated, and questions swirled around the circumstances of her disappearance. There were reports of sightings of Patricia in the days and weeks after she went missing, including one where a woman resembling her was seen in a diner, appearing confused and disoriented. But none of these sightings were ever confirmed. Investigators speculated that Patricia's disappearance might have been the result of a psychological breakdown, possibly brought on by the stress she had been under in the months leading up to the crash. Some believed she may have suffered from dissociative fugue, a rare condition where a person loses their sense of identity and may wander away from home. However, without any solid evidence or sightings, her fate remains a complete mystery. To this day, Patricia Meehan's case is unsolved, and she has never been found. Her disappearance remains one of the most puzzling missing person cases in Montana's history, leaving her family and those who knew her to wonder what really happened that night on a lonely stretch of highway in the middle of nowhere.